Even if you've got a great workplace, you love your boss, you think you get paid enough, you think your benefits are fine, unionizing and locking that in a contract is still good.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I was talking to somebody the other day, about the Starfinder or Path Star something. There's like some role-playing tabletop RPG game where workers there unionized recently.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and this guy's a big, he's a big kind of D&D guy. And I told him about that, and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that would be an industry where you would need to unionize, where conditions were bad." I've heard horror stories, he said, about the video game industry and the crunch, that they call it before the release. But I didn't realize that there were issues, and I was like, well, to be honest, I can't recall. I couldn't recall at that time I was having this conversation, and I'm not sure now any specific. What the issues were, or even if there was any specific issue. But even if and this is something that I always say, even if your workplace is great, even if you've got a great workplace, you love your boss, you think you get paid enough, you think your benefits are fine, unionizing and locking that in a contract is still good. And in fact, if the best time to unionize is when you've got a good boss, if such a thing were to exist. That would be the best time to unionize. If you've got a good boss who's paying you well, you've got a good relationship with, and he's not going to, try to, or she's not going to try to break the law to try to destroy your union or try to, emaciate you, pummel you into poverty, stuff like that. That would be a great time to unionize and just lock that in because why? Well, that person might have a heart attack tomorrow, and you're going to have another boss. And there's no reason to believe that the next boss is going to be as good as this one. And also, who knows, they could have a stroke and become a totally different person the next day, right? Something could happen and make them a bad boss. What you do when you unionize and you get a union contract is you lock in what you get in the contract, what the things that you put in the contract, you're able to lock that in. And if my boss comes in tomorrow, next week, and starts trying to do crazy stuff outside of the contract, I can just pull out the contract. I can just say, look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Tough beans, right? But I couldn't do that if I didn't have a union contract. You can't do that if you have a union contract. If you don't have a union contract,
right?
And you're at will. If you don't have a union contract, your boss can fire you for any reason or no reason at all. So
demote you for any reason.
Yeah,
suspend you for any reason.
Reduce your salary for any reason, which is what happened at NBC. But they had a union contract, so they were able to get back pay. So. And I think that's really important. Biometronome mentions, I think people should realize that unionizing doesn't necessarily mean being the enemy of management. It doesn't automatically mean they're complaining about their workplace conditions. It seems to be a common mindset, and it's the way a lot of managers look at the concept of unions as well. Now, there's definitely going to be an inherent tension between the employer and the employee, just by virtue of the fact that every dollar that a boss makes, every dollar that goes into the owner's profits is a dollar that I'm not making, and vice versa, right? So there's going to be an inherent tension there. But you are correct in that it doesn't necessarily mean that they hate their job. He goes on saying, for example, most workers in Costco and Trader Joe's are kind of happy with their jobs and are friendly with their managers. When I ask them, are you guys unionizing? They seem to think I'm asking if they hate their jobs. And that's just, and that's totally correct. In fact, some of the Starbucks folks that we've talked to from Alabama have a similar take in that I don't hate my job necessarily. I think, I get paid maybe more than some people do, but I see all the money that's going through my store, and I know who's responsible for that. Who's responsible for that happening? And it's me. It's me. It's me and my coworkers. It's not the boss over in Seattle, right? And so I should get more of the money that we're creating for this company. And Infinite Content says the reason that management fears unions is that it can cause the working class to arise en masse outside the workplace, and that's something that we've talked about before. That there is definitely there's a social element to unionization that makes that kind of educates people more about what's going on and is very, very helpful in understanding understanding what's going on and who's good for you and who's not good for you and what you can do about that. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.